You have the hadith on your handouts, and start off by reading the English translation of the hadith. This is a hadith on the topic of Allah's protection. Abu al-Abbas, Abdullah bin Abbas, radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, reported, "One day I was behind the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said to me, 'O young man, I shall teach you some words of advice. Be mindful of Allah, and Allah will protect you. Be mindful of Allah, and you will find Him in front of you. If you have need to ask, then ask of Allah. And if you seek help from Allah. Know that even if the nation or the whole community were to gather together to benefit you with something, they would not benefit you with anything except that which Allah has already recorded for you. And if they gather together to harm you with something, they would not be able to harm you with anything except that which Allah has already recorded for you. The pens have been lifted and the pages have dried." Al-Tirmidhi reports this and says it is a good, genuine hadith. In a version other than that of Al-Tirmidhi, it reads, "Be mindful of Allah. You will find Him before you. Get to know Allah in prosperity, and He will know you in adversity. Know that what has passed you by was not going to befall you, and that what has befallen you was not going to pass you by. And know that victory comes with patience, relief and affliction, and ease with hardship." So this is the English translation of the hadith. I'll give some commentary on this hadith, inshallah. The hadith tells us to be mindful of Allah. This is mentioned a couple of times during the hadith. But what is meant by being mindful of Allah? To be mindful of Allah means a number of things. Firstly, it means to observe and to fulfill our obligations to Allah. Secondly, it means to adhere to His commandments. And thirdly, it means to avoid the prohibitions that Allah has told us to avoid. And this concept of following what is lawful and staying away from what is prohibited will be the central topic of today's lecture, which Brother Muhammad al-Sagir will go into. But what are some of the things that we need to observe and fulfill? Some examples of these are the Salah. We are required to pray 5 times a day. Cleanliness is one example. We are ordered to be clean. We must fulfill our promises and our obligations, our oaths that we have made to other people. We need to guard our senses. We need to be careful of where our eyes wander, what we do with our senses, what we do with our hands, our tongues, our sight and our hearing. We need to consume that which is halal. Our dealings with other people need to be good and halal. And we need to protect our heart from committing sins. These are just a few of the examples of things which come under this category of being mindful to Allah. But the hadith goes on to say, well, okay, yes, we need to be mindful to Allah, but what will happen if we are mindful to Allah? And there are a couple of things that the hadith goes on to tell us about what Allah will do if we are mindful of our duty to Him. One of the things that this hadith mentions is that if we are mindful to Allah, then Allah will protect us. What will He protect us from? Allah will protect us in this world. He will protect us in worldly matters. If we are mindful to Allah and fulfill our obligations to Him, then He will protect us in terms of our senses. He will protect us in terms of where our senses are used, our eyesight, our hearing. He will protect our health. He will protect us from misfortunes that might befall us. And the hadith mentions very specifically that if we are mindful of Allah and remember Allah in our youth, then Allah will remember us when we are old and are not capable of doing many of the things that we were able to do in our youth. So these are some of the worldly matters where Allah will protect us if we are mindful of our duty to Him. Allah will also protect us in terms of our religious matters. Allah will protect us in this world from committing sin. Allah will protect us in this world and guide us in our duties, and by being mindful to Him, then Allah will make us even more mindful to Him. Allah will protect us and make us a people that are dutiful in terms of what we do, who are righteous, and a people who are constantly trying to remember Him. Allah will protect us very importantly in one matter which for the believer is something which is of concern to him 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and every day of the year. We seek refuge in Allah from how we will be taken from this world. One of the most important things for a believer is the concern that will I leave this world in a state of Iman, or will I leave this world in a state of kufr. So we need to be very careful in terms of practicing our deen in this world, but when we are about to leave this world, this is a time when many trials will befall us. And inshallah we seek refuge in Allah from these trials, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are mindful to Him in this world, then inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect us, particularly during this very difficult time when we are taken from this world and when our soul is taken from our bodies and we are about to depart from this world. This is a very difficult time, and this is the most important time for the believer, that we leave this world in a state of Iman and seeking the pleasure of Allah. So we seek Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect us from worldly matters. He will protect us in this world in terms of fulfilling our obligations to Him, in terms of our Islam, our deen. He will protect us at the time when we are about to depart from this world. And inshallah He will also protect us from shaitan. So this is one of the things that the hadith mentions. If we are mindful to Allah, then Allah will protect us. The hadith also goes on to say, if we are mindful of Allah, then we will find Him in front of us. And this really comes on to the concept of taqwa, which we had as a subject of a hadith in a previous class, that